Hello everyone, and welcome to today's Fairy God Boss live webinar. We're so excited to have you all join us, and we're going to give folks a second to connect. But while we're waiting, we'd love to know where everyone is tuning in from today. You will see at the right side of your screen, there's a chat box. So feel free, if you're comfortable doing so, please send a message in the chat saying hello and tell us where you're joining from. Florida, New York, Dublin, London, New Jersey. I'm in Jersey, Wisconsin, Toronto. I love it. Awesome. I see we have folks joining from all over, which is fantastic. Colorado, another Dublin. Wonderful. Thank you all for joining us today. So we'll go ahead and we'll get started. First, I'd like to introduce myself. I am Diamond McClintock-Cox, talent brand lead at Squarespace. And before we get started, I have a few quick announcements to make. Number one, this session will be recorded and shared through email with all registrants. And then during the discussion, we will love to hear from you. We would hope that you'd use the stage chat on the right side that you've been using of your screen to send messages, comments, and also the Q&A tab to send questions to our panelists. For those who do not know, Fairy God Boss is the largest online career community for women. Millions of women visit Fairy God Boss for career connections, jobs, community advice, hard to find intel about how companies treat women, and virtual events like this one. And now I'm excited to kick off today's event, Engineering Your Future, Career Pathways for Women in Tech, sponsored by Squarespace. I'm thrilled today to be joined by three of my colleagues, Mariah Maynard, Anca Roscan, and Edie Beer. Would each of you please take a minute and introduce yourselves? We'd love to hear what's going on in your personal life, whatever you care to share, your professional life, and what you do in your role today at Squarespace. Mariah, we'll start with you.
Hello, I'm Mariah Maynard. I am a backend engineer on the international team here at Squarespace. This is the team I recently joined last year after interning on it the year before. So I'm excited to speak to you all today.
Thank you. And Anca, please introduce yourself and your role at Squarespace for us.
Hey everyone, my name is Anca Roscan. I'm an engineering team manager at Squarespace. I manage one of the international engineering teams here. We focus on localization, market expansion, and growth. I've been in tech for the past 14 years, and this is my third year as a manager.
Edie, please introduce yourself for us and your role at Squarespace.
Sure. Hi, I am Edie Beer. I am the engineering manager here at Squarespace. I've been here 2.5 years. I'm in the platform group, very, very, very back end. You don't want me near a UI. I've been in tech a total of 20 years, and there was a little career break in there. And I've been in management for about 8 years so far.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you all. I'm excited about our discussion today. And for those of you who are just tuning in, I'd like to remind everyone that we will be answering questions that come directly from all of you. So please submit your questions on the Q&A tab to the right of your screen, and we'll do our best to respond to as many as we can. Okay. Can each of you do me a favor and share a pivotal moment in your career that has helped to shape your path in engineering? As we know, engineering is not a field that many women are in, and it may be very difficult in that regard to thrive in it and to see a potential opportunity for yourself to grow in and to be in that field. So Anca, if we can start with you once again, just sharing a pivotal moment in your career that helped shape your path into engineering.
I'd say for me, the transition between the IC path and being a manager or someone that you lead and an IC again or a manager again, it's It's been the most important moment or transition, kind of just realizing that you can switch between the two paths, and there's going to be a time when you're going to be a manager. For me, that was early on. It was in the first 5 years of my career, but then I realized that I wanted to be an IC for longer, and being able to go back to doing each at a different time in your career, I think it was what made the biggest difference, and I appreciate it whenever I see it happening in the field. Even at Squarespace now, I've seen it for a few of our colleagues, and I think it's an important path for the field.
Awesome. Thank you. Edie, how about you? What was a pivotal moment in your career that helped shape your path in engineering?
Kind of similar to Anca. Early on in my career, I actively avoided the more management angle of things. I wanted to be a hardcore architect person, and after I came back after my career break, there was this moment things kind of clicked, that I saw I could still have bring that technical experience, that technical depth, but do it in a management role, and saw the real impact that someone who really cared about how teams were running and process and growing folks, the kind of broad impact you could have being in that room and doing those things. So I sort of realizing that this was something that didn't mean I wasn't technical, and making that move was big for me.
Thank you. Awesome. And then, Mariah, how about you? I know that you are, like you mentioned in the beginning, you interned here and then converted into a full-time role. So maybe your perspective might be a bit different about that moment, maybe more recently, that helped shape your path and career in engineering.
Yeah, I would say I definitely am still early on in my career, and I do feel like I have many more of those moments ahead of me. But I think it may not just be a moment, but probably a duration of time, which was my internship, where I found myself like developing a confidence to continue on in this career. Here at Squarespace in the internship program, you get like intern leads and intern buddies. And so my intern lead was a really intelligent woman named Kaylee, and I also had an intern buddy. And so my intern lead, she was a woman, my intern buddy shared the same ethnicity with me. And so I think what Squarespace did a really great job with, or does a really great job with, is just representation. So seeing two parts of my identity represented in leadership roles close to me kind of inspired me and kind of quelled any doubts that I could reach those senior positions one day.
No, absolutely. And I was going to ask this question later on, but I kind of want to pivot to it right now because, Mariah, to your point of, Squarespace assigned individuals to you, someone to sort of be a mentor, but then also a peer, but you were able to learn and have dialogue with each of these individuals. And I'm sure they were able to learn and glean information and new ideas from you. So while we're on the topic of sort of mentorship, I'd love to ask Anca and Edie about this as well. So have you had any mentors who've made a significant impact on your career? And how can women find or become more effective mentors or mentees in tech? So Edie, if you can start there.
Oh goodness, there's so many. There's Thinking about this question reminds me of something from Lara Hogan's writing. Particularly, she writes about engineering management and helping skill up managers. But she talks about the concept of a manager Voltron. That you have people in your life or in your work life that you go to for different things. So you have a bit of a squad. There's the person you go to when you're dealing with a thorny people problem, or the people you talk to about like something that's a bit more technical or strategic, or you're thinking about like your career in the 5 to 10 year range. So I think that's something that really is helpful when you're looking for mentors, to know what you're looking for. And I think that helps you find that match.
And this wasn't a part of my original question, but Edie, I'd love to ask you, how can someone go about getting a mentor? Does it always need to be formal, like, hey, in my experience with you, I feel like there's something I can learn here. Will you be my manager? How do you feel about more of an informal way of building that relationship? Can it be too full? Can it happen both ways? What are your thoughts?
I think it can happen both ways. There have been, situations where I've been in that are like more formal of, I'm looking for someone to mentor me about these certain topics. Being clear about your ask is very good. But I've also found that, when I've mentored folks, I often learn I learn from my mentees as much as they learn from me. Often you're just helping someone find the answer that they already knew. So it can go both ways.
Thank you. Anka, what about you? What are your thoughts on have you had any mentors? And then how can women find or become more effective mentors or mentees in tech?
Sure. I had a few experiences of having a mentor as well. The first one I think back to is the time when my manager was my mentor on the management path as well. I wasn't considering management at that point, and I feel that person was pretty much sharing with me, situations and discussing how to react, how to lead the team, how to manage people, just sharing tips and tricks. And that all led to a moment when then he suggested, that I could take on that role. And I just realized I knew how and I was ready. So that made a big difference. And then there was another time later in my career when a woman manager I knew, she just let my manager know that she's looking for mentees. And she told me, hey, reach out if you're interested. So I thought that was an interesting and good way to approach this as well. But nowadays, I know there's a lot more opportunities to find mentors. There's a couple of platforms that offer access to mentors, which I think really makes this easier. I think at times it really helps if you have a mentor both inside the company and outside the company you are in. An external view can be very helpful too. And for that, I'm using a platform called UpNotch, but I'm sure there's a lot more available. I personally found when I'm a mentor, I found that having a clear goal to work towards with your mentor and a certain time to accomplish it, it's what makes it the most productive. But as you become more senior, at times it's helpful to just have a sounding board as well for day-to-day situations.
No, absolutely. Thank you. And with the sounding board, as you just mentioned, and Anka, if we can stay with you for this next question, looking back, what's one piece of advice that you wish that maybe you received earlier in your engineering career, and maybe that piece of advice came from a mentor-mentee relationship, or maybe it was a reflection that you had on your own. So, looking back, what's one piece of advice you wish that you received earlier in your engineering career?
So whenever I joined Squarespace, we still had Tanya Riley working at Squarespace, and she's the one who I think framed in the best way the concept of glue work. And I read through her presentation, and I wish I would have known sooner that you'll she's saying you'll get good at whatever you spend a lot of time and energy on. And I think me and many other women, we are more inclined to do glue work. And there's times in your career when that helps, and earlier on, it doesn't really help. So I'd say this is the advice I wish I would have gotten early on.
Thank you. Edie, what about you? What's one piece of advice that you wish maybe you got earlier in your engineering career?
See, I was about 4 years, 5 years into my career when someone said to me, Edie, you need to work on raising your profile. And I just went, what? I'm one of three women engineers in an office of 300 people. Everyone knows who I am. I'm doing the work. I'm getting things done. What do you mean raise my profile? But you do need to do that, of making those connections and talking to the senior technical folks in the office, and having those they seem like they're back channely conversations. So people humans are squishy. And so get people to know who you are and what you do beyond, okay, yes, I'm doing the thing and I'm getting it done, but not everybody's going to notice that. And sort of different ways that you can make yourself visible. And for me to, I kind of wish I had heard that a little earlier, and for that actually that it clicked, that I understood what that meant, perhaps a little bit earlier.
Thank you. And Edie, you don't have to respond to this, but I have a quick question based on what you just shared. A lot of us, including myself, work 100% remote. How can people who are remote employees get in front of those leaders and prove their worth or show themselves, if you don't have the ability to like be in line with them during lunchtime and just say, hey, any thoughts from anyone here about that?
There are lots of, I think there's still ways you can be visible when you're remote, like in Slack, taking part in, when there are chances to present, or even just like say documents that you've published, or even I think I might mention this later, is like with your own work, that making sure it's not that you're presenting it saying you're owning your accomplishments. Like, I led this. Yes, it was a team effort, but I led this, and not being shy about actually owning that.
Thank you. Okay, how about unexpected challenges? I know we've all faced many, right? Regardless of how many years of experience we've had, regardless of the areas that we work in or the industries. So, have there been any unexpected challenges that you faced specifically as a woman in tech? And how have you navigated that? Anca, do you want to start there?
Sure. I think this came as a surprise to me, and I only realized it pretty much about the time when I started being an interviewer. At times, because you're more shy or more soft-spoken, women are oftentimes perceived as less experienced during the leveling step in interviews. Um, so that was an interesting experience. It was an interesting finding, and it definitely challenged me to tailor how I introduce myself as well, how I talk about my work to establish credibility. And it was full of lessons altogether. I would recommend anyone, if you're not holding interviews for your level or levels below you, please go and do that. Especially if you're struggling with imposter syndrome in any way. I think it's a good way to calibrate and understand what's the market like, how people perform at different levels and things like that.
Thank you. Edie, thoughts on that?
Yeah, for me, I would say my unexpected challenge was myself. I took, I was in tech for 7 years, and then took a 10-year career break. Literally just shut the laptop, didn't touch a line of code, and came back. And I say, and came back. It's it's a process, but it had to start with me convincing myself. I couldn't convince anybody else that I could do it until I was all in on, yeah, I can do that. And that I had plenty of things in my mind of like, oh, I'm going to reskill this way, and I'm going to reach out to these people and network that way. But the whole have a good talk with my therapist about, yeah, I can do this, was not on the plan, but it was very helpful.
No, I appreciate that. And with that, like that soft skills are just as important, if not more important, it sounds like, than sometimes the technical skills. Time management, preventing burnout, talking to your peers or to some sort of professional to ensure that you're managing yourself, managing your time. Mariah, I'd love to hear from you. What are some technical and or soft skills that you think have been most valuable for someone trying to enter or advance in their career in engineering? And if you could just remind us, if you share a technical skill, if you can just remind us of your area of engineering, because maybe the skills that you speak to are specific to that.
Yeah, so I am a backend engineer. And so, yeah, I actually did transition to tech. I have a bachelor's in chemistry and a master's in computer science. Then sometimes I joke that my bachelor's in chemistry is just for decoration and it's collecting dust, but it's actually not. I think that having skills in different fields that aren't simply engineering or computer science. It actually makes you a very well-rounded candidate, and it also adds some uniqueness to you. And so there's obvious technical skills such as, programming and knowing version control and documentation. But I think as far as soft skills, I think communication or the ability to communicate effectively is a huge one. And that is something I'm still discovering as well. I can be reserved or shy sometimes, but something that has become more apparent is that you grow a lot when you communicate. You're not just working by yourself, you're on a team. So there's ideas to be had and like notes to be shared with people. It can communicating effectively can help unblock you when you're in certain tasks, or also be or sharing ideas can also like develop into something amazing. I think that also the ability to communicate with just your manager, with your thoughts and feelings about what you're working on. Say you're unhappy what you're working on. If you communicate that with your manager, they can help you maybe be put onto a project that you care more about or something that piques your interest more. And so I think that is a good skill to be used. And this skill can also communication can be developed in other careers and other professions and be brought easily into tech.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Anka, what about you? Any technical or soft skills that you want to share with us that you think are most valuable for someone trying to enter or advance their career in engineering?
Yes, continuing on the communication theme, I feel it's very important to look at the way you talk about your work and understanding why you do the work you do, what is the impact of it. As engineers, especially, we oftentimes are very, down in the weeds and in the details of this is what my task is doing. But when you talk to other people, they don't have as much context as you do, and just giving them the bigger picture of why you do what you do can make a difference on them understanding the value of what you do as well. And then I would also add the growth mindset part. I'd say at times we tend to want to do things perfectly and really well the first time around. But I would say nowadays it's definitely more important to be ready to fail and learn from it and have something ready and calibrate and try again. So that's the second most important thing I would recommend for people. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we've gotten so many wonderful questions already from the audience. All of them I want to ask, but what I'm going to focus on right now is the one that's gotten the most likes, and it's about misconceptions, right? So the question was, what are some misconceptions about engineering careers that you wish more people, especially women, understood? Anyone want to take this first?
I'll take a stab at this. I feel like there's a bit of a conception that to be a good engineer you need to be the rock star. You need to come in and do the thing and I did 10x code. And actually, what's more valuable? I'm going to borrow a phrase that a former colleague would use is to be the gig musician instead of the rock star. You come in, you do the job, you're reliable, you get it done, you work well with others. It's not just, throw the things out and the code compiled. It's solving problems for people. So that's what I think.
Anyone else? No pressure. Any other thoughts about a misconception? Okay. Mariah, going back to you, how do you stay up to date with new technologies for continuous learning? And what would you recommend women just starting out or looking to pivot into tech roles? What are some things that they can do out there in the world or technology that you might recommend?
I think that everyone on my team knows this, but I'm someone who's a very big social media person. I'm on it multiple times a day. And I think what I do to stay updated on tech is to incorporate that into my daily routine already. I think, as far, for example, LinkedIn, maybe following companies or blogs on there that you're already interested in. I would say find some things you're interested in and follow that. So for example, I follow a page called Women Who Code on LinkedIn. I also follow like OpenAI. And so while I'm scrolling on my social media, I'll see they post something new, and maybe that'll lead me down a rabbit hole to see, okay, what's this company talking about? What's new in this area? So yeah, that's what I would say.
Thank you. Anca, any thoughts there?
I'm not on social media, but I listen to a lot of podcasts. So I try to mix the management or leadership podcast with some technical ones as well on security or technology in general. And then I try subscribing to newsletters, reading books, going to tech cons. I think that's everybody knows these ones, but you have to find what works for you. And for me, listening to podcasts on the way to work works.
Any podcasts in particular that you want to share with us?
There's one. There's a few on security, cybersecurity today. Those are the ones I listen to most often.
Okay, thank you. And then Edie, going back to you, can you speak to your experiences of how Squarespace supports the growth and advancement of women engineers within Squarespace? So, if you can just remind us how long you've been with Squarespace, also, I think that adds the perspective. But with your experience of Squarespace, how does the company support growth and advancement of women?
Well, I've been in with Squarespace just a little over 2.5 years. One thing we have, which I may not be all that uncommon, is that we do have a Women Plus ERG, which runs different programming, including I think a mentorship matching something. It helps connect folks from different sections of the company. We have different business lines that you don't necessarily always deal with on a day-to-day basis. So I think building that community is very good. Also, I as a manager and my own manager, we look at that when I mentioned earlier about the advice I wish I had gotten earlier of raising the profile. So we see a woman engineer who's doing quite well, but to help her get to that next level, she needs, maybe she needs to have her name in front of the right people, or some speaking opportunities, or whatever that is. We definitely look at that in how we're approaching, the balance of how things work on teams, or suggesting opportunities to folks. It's a factor in how we handle everyone.
Thank you. Mariah, how about you? In your experience with Squarespace so far, and you've had two different perspectives already, the intern perspective, and maybe it shifted, maybe it hasn't. As a full-time employee here, how have you yourself as a woman identifying engineer, how have you felt that there's opportunity for you, or, support for your growth?
I want to just echo what Edie said about how Squarespace is very intentional about how it just allows representation and supports people. And it's a very inclusive environment. So we do have the Women Plus ERG. We also have many different ERGs that you can find and be a part of, one or multiple. I mentioned that I had a woman lead me in my internship, but also there's many visible women identifying people in Squarespace as well. Anca is a manager on my team, and she's amazing, and she's a very valued member. And you can definitely see that by the way people speak so highly of her and communicate with her. And so I think Squarespace is also intentional about hiring people who value engineers, coworkers, etc., who are different. She's valuable not just because she's a woman, but she's a great manager. And so I think that's very important to highlight.
Thank you so much. So kind. Right now, I want to take a few more questions from the audience. You guys have been putting some wonderful questions in the chat, and I don't want you to think that they're going to go unanswered. Going back to the way that I did it before with the one that's most liked first, what are some silent or invisible forms of labor that you found yourself doing in the workplace? Maybe mentoring, we touched on that, emotional support, advocating for inclusion. And how do you value or protect your energy around that? Has anyone here had that experience and wants to share? Anca?
I'd say this comes back again to all the activities that qualify as glue work. At times, just making sure that everyone is aligned and they're coordinating around when to finish their tasks and how they integrate. I feel like that can easily go unnoticed. But allyship tasks are a good call out as well. And for that, I would say you need to decide what's important to you and how much energy you have for that. You can't care about all the things and make a meaningful difference. So just reflecting on that and realizing you won't be able to do it all, you can make a small difference in some areas. I think that helped me. And just realizing when I have the space and energy to do a good job there and when I just need to relax and reset and let someone else do it.
Yes, emphasis on letting someone else do it, right? Just briefly, I want to share. Edie talked about our ERGs, and one of them that I previously co chaired was BASE. That's our Black at Squarespace ERG. And I was thrilled and honored to co chair that for 3 years. And then when there was an opportunity to do it again, I said, no, thank you. Not because, I had hit my threshold, but there was an opportunity. I felt, give someone else an opportunity to do this. Give someone else an opportunity to learn. I learned so much about myself. I developed so many skills and identified more weaknesses of myself by way of doing that. And so give someone else the opportunity to develop in something outside of their job description, outside of their day-to-day. So totally not burning yourself out, choosing what's important to you. I think, Anca, that is so important for all of us to take away. What matters to you, just do that. Don't focus on the other stuff if you can't give time to it. And then also giving other people the opportunity to grow and thrive in certain spaces that can develop them because maybe it's developed you. Thank you so much. Another question from our audience about ageism. Do women over 50 do women over 50 face more ageism in tech versus other careers? Now, I'm going to preface this by saying I'm sure that any response that's shared here or by our audience is going to be totally subjective on this. But do women over 50 face more ageism in tech versus other careers? I have worked adjacent to data and dev teams for a decade, and I'm now considering a full transition into data engineering. But I'm approaching 50. Is this truly realistic? Anyone want to give their personal thoughts here?
I will jump on that. I am over 50. I can't speak to what other careers face because I've been in this industry all along. Ageism is real. I felt like I faced it a lot when I was coming back into tech, but I don't think. Yeah, I don't think I don't think your age should be the reason you don't do something. I know there are misconceptions from some folks. I haven't faced them here, but I know there are misconceptions people have of, well, if you're at this level and you've been doing it for that long, you're not flexible, you can't learn. I think you can illustrate that, and that's there are ways to provide the data to counter that. And yeah, humans are squishy. It's hard to know what their brains are going to decide.
Thank you. Anyone else? No pressure. Okay. Another question from our audience was about burnout. And I know personally here at Squarespace, we care a lot about mental health. I feel like we have wonderful benefits where there's so many apps or subscriptions that all of our employees can leverage for free to be able to talk to someone, get different mental health resources. So burnout is real, we all know, and also Squarespace having flexible and unlimited PTO certainly helps with that as well. But does anyone want to talk about how they prevent burnout? We know as women, sometimes we have families, we're caregivers, even if we're not caregivers for children, maybe for an elder parent or whatever. Anyone have thoughts on how they in their own life are preventing burnout and want to share with the group?
I think the way that looks like for me is planning for rest on my day-to-day rhythm. I feel like you can never bucket, you've 1 week of sleep debt, you're just going to take the time off and you're going to sleep and then you're fine. That's not how it works. Um, so just making sure I take pauses and breaks and rest on my regular schedule is very important.
Thank you. I want to take one more question and then we'll pop back into sort of our questions, but it's specifically around looking at Squarespace open roles. Someone asked, what advice would you give to someone looking at Squarespace open jobs? What should they know about the team or the hiring process? And before anyone answers, I want to preface this by saying each team, the process is a little bit different. Um, you know, depending on department, maybe the candidate experience looks a little bit different as far as like how many interviews or if there's sort of an assignment attached to it. Of course, the teams that you meet with are different. But Edie, if you don't mind taking this one, and then whomever else wants to maybe speak to it, considering you are, a manager, you've been here for 2.5 years, maybe you have some thoughts around as a hiring manager, what the process would be for your team, maybe.
Okay. Well, I mean, I am hiring now, actually. So for roles, for my technical roles, we do tend to have there's an initial coding screen, and then an on-site where we were looking at things like data structures and algorithms, object-oriented concepts. So someone, and then additionally, a systems design, and also, we're humans working with humans, so we're also going to be talking about leadership and communication. So it's not just come through and do the coding things, but you are working with humans and you will continue to work with humans. And so being able to have that communication skill is very important.
Thank you. Okay, Fairy Godboss has a tradition of asking its panelists the following. What they have observed is that women do not feel comfortable enough bragging or taking ownership. We talked about this, taking ownership of all of the amazing things that they've achieved. So I would love if each of you would share with us an accomplishment, professional or personal, that you're most proud of. Edie, let's start with you.
Okay, I hope this isn't a cop out, but honestly, it's growing people who grow people. Becoming a manager, you get a little more of an indirect impact, but seeing folks that I've helped grow into leadership roles and have them go grow other people into leadership roles, or see them build teams that are inclusive and value balance and sustainable pace, I'm just like, what could be better?
Awesome, thank you. Anca, how about you?
I'm going to share an older one because it's very important to me, because throughout my career, I always needed to care about well-being for my own well-being. And well-being and work-life balance looks differently at different times. So there was a time in my career when I felt like well-being and balance looks like working less days a week. And it was before we've done all the studies and before we've discussed that this is something effective. So I had negotiated that with a company. They introduced it as an option for all the employees, and just putting this option out there and in people's minds when they didn't thought that's something that can be done. I think it was more valuable than just me getting the extra day off.
Love it. Thank you. Mariah, how about you? What's share with us an accomplishment, professional or personal, that you're most proud of?
Yeah, so I would say that there's two things. The first one is pursuing my master's and also getting my master's. I was very nervous, like going after a computer science master's degree, especially lacking the like bachelor's background or any previous background. And so there's a lot of times I had self-doubt or like maybe wanted to just quit. But the fact that I persevered, and now I can say I have one, I'm very proud of myself for that. And also, I would say, following that, moving to a new city alone, New York. I was previously in Boston, so moving from Boston to New York, which it's still on the East Coast, but it's a couple states away. I think I'm also very proud of that, and I would consider that a major accomplishment as well.
I would agree. And I'm proud of all three of you ladies. So thank you for sharing. I know I'm no engineer and I'm just a moderator, but in case it helps anyone, I'll share what I'm most recently proud of for myself. I would say it's personal, but it affects my professional space too. I recently became a mom, and when coming back to work, I work fully remote. And so identifying what was the best caregiving experience for my family and my child. I would say what I'm most proud of is advocating for myself when coming back. Everyone in my family had different opinions about what I should do with my kid, daycare, nanny, whatever the case may be. And we landed on a nanny experience. However, I don't have a nanny all days of the work week. And so advocating for myself early to my manager, having that relationship. Mariah, you talked earlier about communication is key. So having that relationship with my manager, communicating before I even came back about my expectation, and just communicating like, hey, I will have a nanny certain days, but are we okay with on these other days or for certain hours, I'm unavailable because I will be working, but also taking care of my child. And, being able to advocate for myself, I would say is what I'm proud of. And having my manager be absolutely receptive to that concept. And it's been working for, the 4 or 5 months that I've been back at work now. And so, yeah, just wanted to share that as well, as people tuning in may be like, oh, how do I navigate being successful at my work, but also navigating, maybe being a new parent or having new expectations at home or outside of work. So definitely feel free to advocate for yourself, because in a place like Squarespace, I can only speak to, it's been very helpful and appreciated for me. Okay, what advice would you guys give your younger selves? Anka, how about you?
As someone who's moved between, different levels in IC and management, I would say knowing your value and doing justice to your experience is the advice I would give myself.
Thank you. Mariah, how about you?
I would say, and this answer may change in the future, because I feel like I am my younger self currently. But I would just say, like, know that you belong here. I think it's it's easy to, I guess, compare yourself to where other people are at their careers and in your certain stage of life, and also just compare yourself to maybe like people who are more senior and maybe you think have more knowledge. But I think just knowing that, engineering isn't just for one type of person; it's for everyone. Um, I think it's fun and interesting most of the time. I do, and I think just having the like desire to learn and grow and advance your career means you belong. So that's the advice I would give.
That is fantastic. Thank you. Edie, how about you? What advice would you give your younger self?
You know more than you think you do. So those things that you think everyone knows, no, they don't. And you should say it. And when you get that feeling in your gut where this doesn't feel right, you're right. Listen to yourself.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate all that, and I think that all of that advice, younger or older, we can all take advantage of this insight. Thank you so much. I'm going to go back and just take a look and see if we can do two more questions from the audience. I love this question that I think we got this one in first, and it's kind of taking us back to the beginning. But the question was for all three of you: what initially drew your career to engineering, and what keeps you motivated to stay and grow in the field? Mariah, do you mind starting there?
Yeah. So I this relates back to me transitioning into tech. So when I first was deciding out a career path for myself, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I felt like I was good at school. Like I was good at many things, but I wasn't really passionate about any one thing, or I hadn't found that yet. And so I was pursuing chemistry just because I thought about going to medicine maybe. But during my undergraduate degree, I had the opportunity to teach. So I would teach STEM, mostly science, like introductory chemistry, like algebra 2 to middle schoolers and high schoolers. And so there was a summer program ran by the Navy that I was a part of, and they wanted to incorporate some type of coding experience for the middle and high schoolers. And so my job had ended up paying me to take a course in data science using Python, so that I could help facilitate that for the kids. And I think that was the first time where I found like the intersection of my skills, but also passion. And it kind of led me down a rabbit hole of what is data science? And it led me down to like, okay, what's computer science? And so it was the first time where I actually felt excited about learning something new, but also just having an aptitude for it. And so that is when I decided to pursue engineering full time.
Thank you. Anca, what got you into engineering?
My story is more straightforward in that sense. I'm someone who studied computer science early on and throughout, university years as well. What got my attention to it is that we studied algorithms and data structures early on when most other subjects, at least back in Romania, were very technical. So just that it was just very interesting to work in, and I ended up pursuing computer science because of that. But what made me stay is the impact it has, because we have software everywhere around us. So I want to be part of building that.
Thank you. And that resonates with me too, wanting to have a role in a place where I can have impact. So that definitely resonates with me. Edie, your thoughts on how you got into engineering?
I got drawn to it in junior high. It at the time I didn't think that could be a real career, and it just slowly found myself finding it very rewarding to solve puzzles that were actually making things better for someone. And that's actually what's kept me here. Is that human impact? I'm not going to be the person who has fun building a Sudoku game, but I am going to be the person who has fun helping fix a reporting system to make something that used to take 2 weeks take 2 hours. And so that's why I'm here.
Thank you. Awesome. I see we had a question from Lynn. Do you feel that you actually take time off that the company offers versus just a number of PTO days and paid holidays? I can briefly answer this just about like Squarespace and our offerings. I believe I've been here for a little bit over 4 years. I think Squarespace really does, especially your managers, the managers really encourage you to take the time and space that you need. There's tons of work-life balance. I feel, flexible time, for the individuals who do go into our office, it's a hybrid approach, flexible days, different arrangements that could be made. We also have various programs that just encourage time off. So outside of just taking, your family vacations or a day here or there, we have a sabbatical program that we rolled out 2 years ago, offering our employees who've been at the company for 6 years plus a paid 6 weeks time off. So we're honoring and rewarding employees who've been loyal to the organization and saying, hey, take 6 weeks and do what you want to do. And my colleagues who've taken advantage of their sabbatical have gone to Thailand and Bali and different countries, Tokyo, and just enjoyed themselves and took time for themselves to explore different things. So I appreciate the time off, and I think each of us, there are some times where there's more opportunity to take it, or we don't forget about doing it. But I do think, as a whole, Squarespace definitely encourages making use of that unlimited PTO, but also just making time for yourself and ensuring that your day works for you, so that's preventing that burnout once again. Does anyone want to add anything to it? No pressure here.
I'm going to add something. I'm trying to be intentional about using the time off as well, because sometimes you're in your work deep down and you don't realize you're tired and that you need the time off. So I try to look at it beforehand and look at my calendar and say I'll probably need a break around this time, around this month, and I just book it and make sure I take the time off. And I always come back more recharged and with more energy. So it's really the best for everyone.
Thank you. Anca, while we have you, you joined Squarespace not too long ago. One of the questions that we got from the audience was, what are you most excited about for the future? I want to make sure that I get it right. What excites you most about the future of engineering for women? So any thoughts here?
I don't think I ever looked at engineering as engineering for women.
Mhm.
I think women are part of it, but engineering for women doesn't look any different than engineering for men. What excites me about the future of engineering at Squarespace is how we evolve our processes and our approaches. I feel we've been really good lately on upgrading the tech we use as well. So I'm just excited to see the growth that we have planned for the following year, especially here in Dublin.
Thank you. And Edie, as a manager, I wonder if you have thoughts for this question that got quite a few likes. What techniques do you have for negotiating your salary when you're going after a promotion internally?
Um, I think what is best for anyone, I guess, at any level, is to, if you have particular expectations when it comes to salary, is to make those known early. Don't wait till you've heard the number. Instead, say, "This is what I'm thinking about. This is what I feel I'm worth," and have that conversation. Um, uh, I've had those conversations with folks, and sometimes I have to say, "Look, I can't give you that, but maybe you know maybe we can do something else another way, because there are constraints and salary bands that managers have to work with." But I would say have it be a conversation, and make it known early, um, because if you and your manager or whoever is handling this, if they don't know what you're expecting, well, then they can't take it into account.
Thank you. And then we'll take one more question from our Q&A tab. And that question is, someone wrote in, just joined, but did anyone mention how to grow your career in tech in the age of AI? I'm currently a freelancer looking for a full-time role, but how do I stand out or AI-proof my career? Does anyone have a suggestion here?
Um, I think all of us are wondering this, as the pace of change keeps increasing in tech, and it's a continual thing. I think becoming familiar with what is there is definitely a good thing, but the fundamentals will always be needed, because we need people who are going to look at what comes from the model or whatever and go, you know what, that's crap. Or say you're using a coding tool and it generates something. Will that even compile? Can anyone really, refactor that well? I think those fundamentals are always going to be needed, no matter how quickly the pace of change continues to speed up.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you so much to all three of you, Mariah, Anca, Edie, for joining us today and for sharing such fantastic advice. I know that I learned a lot. I hope that everyone here did and can take away something. And thanks to all of you who tuned in for our discussion. for giving your feedback, for I see in the chat everyone chiming in, and for the wonderful questions. I really appreciate them. And as a reminder, we'll be sending out a recording of today's event along with resources to learn more about opportunities at Squarespace. I hope you'll take time to take a look and see what we're up to. And then in the meantime, be sure to check out Squarespace's profile and our jobs on Fairy Godboss. And also, we'd love to hear your feedback to help us improve for future events like this one. So please head to the Typeform tab on the right side of your screen to share your thoughts in a 1-minute survey. Once again, thank you so much to everyone who joined us today, wherever you may be, and we'll see you next time.